So in this video we're going to cover navigation inside of ZBrush. Navigation inside of ZBrush is more complicated in Maya if you don't know what you're doing. But once you understand the navigation system in ZBrush, it's actually much faster than Maya's navigation system. So I have these objects in my scene here. Let's start over. I want to start my entire scene over inside of ZBrush. So I don't need to close ZBrush and reopen it. I can come up here to Preferences and go to Init ZBrush. And it's going to say, hey, you're going to lose everything, but let's go yes. You don't want to do this unless you want to reset ZBrush in some way or start a new scene. In my case, I want to start a new scene, but make sure you save your scene before you start a new one. So we're going to discuss navigation now. I am navigating sort of right now. I'm not really, because I don't have anything in my scene. But as you can see, when you open up ZBrush, there is no grid. There's no grid here to determine which way is up, down, left, or right. This is the only view you get inside of ZBrush. You don't have orthographic views. You have only this one perspective view. This is perspective view. So what I need to do, the first thing, is create an object. And you see there's no objects over here like we saw in the last video. There was a sphere over here. We could click on that and we can make a little sphere out here, right? Well, to make an object, then we want to go to the giant golden S and click on that. And then we can select an object here. Let's select a cylinder. And we'll click and drag out that cylinder. Then I'm going to click on my edit menu right here, or the edit button right here. Edit, and now I can navigate that cylinder around. So press Control N to get rid of those scribbles I made earlier, and we will discuss the various ways of navigating inside of ZBrush. There are very many, more than there are in Maya. Okay, so the first way to navigate is I'm going to come up here to Preferences first, because if I hold down, there you go. If I hold down my right mouse button, you can see I get this little menu to pop up. I don't want that menu to pop up. So I'm going to go to Preferences, and I'm going to come over here to Interface, and I'm going to come down here to Enable Right Click Pop-Up, and I'm going to turn that off because I'm going to use my right mouse button to navigate. So you might be wondering why that menu pops up if I'm going to use the right mouse button to navigate, and I'll get into that momentarily. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change out this object entirely because this is really boring. Who wants to look at a cylinder when we're doing this stuff? I'm going to come over here to the lightbox. I'm going to click on that, and hey, why don't we bring in this male ZPR? That'll be fun. Double click that. Okay, go ahead and no, I don't want to save, but there's my male ZPR. The model. Okay, that's great. Here you go. This is a model inside of ZBrush. That's pretty interesting. Athletic-looking man. Okay, good. So we have this cool little model here, and I can navigate around him, and I'm using the right mouse button to do that. So how I rotate him is I hold down the right mouse button and I click and drag. If I want to, say, move him side to side, I'm going to hold Alt, and then I'm going to hold the right mouse button and drag side to side, up and down. I can move him. And if I wanted to zoom in and zoom out, I'm going to hold down Alt, I'm going to hold down the right mouse button, then I'm going to release Alt, and then I'm going to drag. So I'm still holding the mouse button down, but I'm not holding the Alt button down. And we're going to go over that again. So that's how I navigate inside of ZBrush. And let me show you the other ways of navigating inside of ZBrush so that you can understand how those work, and maybe you want to use those instead of the method that I use. But I'll show you why I don't use those other methods and why I use the right mouse button instead. Okay, so the standard way of rotating, scaling, and panning inside of ZBrush is to use the left mouse button. If I hold down the left mouse button and drag, I can rotate. If I hold down both Alt and the left mouse button and drag, I can pan side to side, up and down. And if I hold down the left mouse button and the Alt key, and then I release the Alt key and drag, still holding down the left mouse button, I can zoom in and out. It's the same way as holding down the right mouse button, only you hold the left mouse button instead. There are other options for navigation inside of ZBrush, and they are these buttons over here. So what this button right here does the move is, hey, it pans side to side, up and down. Click and drag on it, just left click and drag on it. Zoom, left click and drag on that, and you zoom in and out. Hey, what do you know? And then rotate. If you left click and drag on that, you rotate. Okay, why do we have buttons? That's weird, right? Well, we're going to get into that now. This white bracket around the outside of my canvas, this is called the canvas inside of ZBrush, is important for what I'm going to show you with these buttons over here. So if I zoom way in on this guy, I got him zoomed way in here. I'm working on his face, doing some close-up detail on his face. Nope, let's get it over here. And then I hold down the Alt mouse button and I click. I can't zoom out. Alt left mouse button click, I can't zoom out. And I have my lazy mouse. Let me turn that off. No, I don't have my lazy mouse. That's weird. Okay, so, but I can't do it with the left mouse button. The reason I can't do it is because the left mouse button is also used to modify my objects inside of ZBrush. So that's why you have these little buttons over here. I can move this around now and get to a point where I can see my canvas. Then I can hold down the left mouse button and Alt left mouse button and drag around. But if I were to zoom in and out and be in here again, you know, I can use my zoom button and zoom in and out, and I can use my rotate button to rotate around, which I can't do that with my left mouse button. If I come out here to this outside of this little white bracket, and then I hold down Alt and I left click and drag and release the Alt key, I can zoom in and out. So outside of this little white bracket, my left mouse button will work even when I'm in close on an object. And I can do the same thing with the panning and stuff. So there you go. You can do all of your operations just outside of this little white bracket. Or you can use the buttons over here. Or you can use the right mouse button, which is what I use. I just use the right mouse button because the right mouse button, doesn't matter where I click, I can zoom around and I can rotate and I can do all that stuff without sculpting on the surface. Because normally the left mouse button will sculpt on that surface. And that's why I use the right mouse button, because I don't have to worry about sculpting on my object. There's been plenty of times when I went to rotate something and I accidentally, or I didn't accidentally, but I clicked the left mouse button accidentally on top of the surface, and I didn't realize it for hours. And I had something like this. Let me turn this off. Sticking out on just one leg, and I'm like, oh man. And I have to go in and I have to fix this thing here. And depending on how high poly your object is that you're dealing with, you can have some serious difficulties fixing these sorts of errors. Now, a couple other things regarding navigation, which is why I use use the right mouse button, and then I had to trump that pop-up up there. But now a couple other things on navigation, which are going to be the, you can see I have my object like off here, and I want to maybe square it up. Okay, so when I'm rotating, right mouse button clicking and dragging, right mouse button click and drag to rotate. As soon as I get close to the side that I want to snap to orthographic view, I just hold on the Shift key, and it'll snap. I can snap it to the back. I can snap it to the top. I can snap it any direction I want to, and it'll snap. Okay, so that's the snapping there. And then the other thing is, say I'm way off. I got this thing way out here or something. F. F is in frame, just like in Maya. F, and you can frame this up, and then you can see it squared in your scene. So those are the different things you need to know about navigating inside of ZBrush. A lot of different ways to navigate there. Just use the right mouse button. Remember, just right mouse button click and drag is rotate. Holding down Alt right mouse button click and drag is panning, and then holding down Alt right mouse button releasing Alt and dragging is zooming. And it'll become very fast for you if you practice this a lot inside of ZBrush. So anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you learned something in this video and have fun inside of ZBrush.